Picture this. It is a regular school morning in Jupiter, Florida. Rory McIlroy drops his daughter Poppy at the school gate, walks back to his car, heads straight to a private jet, flies to Augusta, Georgia, plays a full practice round at one of the most exclusive golf courses on the planet, and is back home in time for dinner. That actually happened multiple times, and right now, the internet is on fire because of it. Social media is calling it cheating. Some are calling it scandal. Others are asking why he is even allowed to this. So today, we're going to cut through all the noise, lay out exactly what happened, what the facts say, and what the real conversation should actually. No outrage bait, no cheap takes, just a full story. If you're the kind of golf fan who wants honest, fact-based coverage of the PGA Tour, hit that like button, subscribe. This channel is built for people who want the real story, not just the headline. Now, let's go back to where this all starts, because the full picture matters. Heading into the 2026 Masters, most people assumed Rory McIlroy was taking it easy. He had suffered a back injury that forced him out of the Arnold Palmer Invitational before the third round. He then showed up the afternoon before the Players' Championship, where he finished tied for 46th. After that, he skipped 3 consecutive PGA Tour events: the Valspar Championship, the Texas Children's Houston Open, and the Valero Texas Open. The working assumption was simple. He was resting, recovering, and conserving energy ahead of defending his Masters title. That assumption turned out to be wrong. After firing a stunning second-round 65 at Augusta National, McIlroy sat down with the media and revealed something nobody had fully anticipated. He had not been sitting at home resting. He had been working, and he had been working specifically here at Augusta. In his own words, "I honestly just don't like the 3 tournaments leading up to this event. I'd rather come up here. I did a couple of days where I dropped Poppy to school, flew up here, played, landed back home, and had dinner with Poppy. I did a couple of day trips like that, where I felt it was a better use of my time than going to Houston or San Antonio. It wasn't really about conserving energy, but just I felt the more time I could spend up here, the better." He went further. "I've been on this golf course so much the last 3 weeks. That has been a combination of practice and chipping, putting around green, and then just playing one ball and shooting scores and ending up in weird places that you maybe never find yourself as trying to figure. I think just spending so much time up here has been a big part of it." The numbers back that philosophy up completely. McIlroy opened the 2026 Masters with rounds of 67 and 65. That second round included 6 birdies in the closing 7 holes and set a Masters record, making him the first player in the history of the tournament to hold a 6-shot lead to halfway point. He led the field with 15 birdies through 36. He did not just play well. He looked completely in control of a golf course that has historically been one of the most psychologically demanding venues in professional. And that is exactly where the controversy exploded. Once McIlroy described those day trips, social media reacted immediately and loudly. The narrative that spread was straightforward. Rory McIlroy had access to Augusta National that other players did not, used a private jet to get there repeatedly, and is now dominating the field because of it. One widely shared tweet read, "Why is he allowed to have an unfair advantage? No wonder he's minus 12. Another called it hypocritical, pointing to a 2021 comment where McIlroy described flying private as a detriment. A third account argued that Augusta National should not be accessible to players within a month of the tournament. The frustration is understandable, particularly for casual fans watching from the outside. Not every professional golfer owns a private jet. Not every player has the financial flexibility to skip 3 tour events and spend weeks practicing at a private club. The instinctive reaction goes like this. If access to Augusta creates an advantage, and not every player has equal access, then the competition is not entirely fair. That logic feels reasonable on the surface, but when you go one layer deeper, the facts tell a very different. Fact number 1. Pre-tournament practice at Augusta National is not an exclusive privilege reserved for Rory McIlroy. Every single player with a Masters invitation is allowed to visit Augusta National before tournament week and play practice. As has been reported across multiple outlets over the any player with a Masters invitation can arrange to play the course and can do so more than once if invited by a member. The opportunity is open. What differs is who chooses to take it. Fact number 2. This is not new information, and it is not something McIlroy has ever hid. He has spoken publicly about scouting trips to Augusta before nearly every Masters he has played, including across the 16 appearances before he finally won in 2025. Pre-tournament preparation at major venues has always been part of elite golf. It is, as one writer put it accurately, par for the course. Fact number 3. Scottie Scheffler, arguably the best player in the world, did not take a scouting trip to Augusta before winning his first green jacket 2020. He said publicly that he made a scouting trip following year in 2024 specifically to avoid reliving difficult memories during tournament. He finished tied for 10th that year. The scouting trip did not produce a win. The relationship between preparation and performance at Augusta is far more complicated than simply showing up more often. Fact number 4. By the time Saturday's third round teed off, Rory McIlroy was playing his 65th tournament round at Augusta National. At that level of accumulated experience, a handful of additional practice sessions in non-tournament conditions do not fundamentally transform what a player knows about the course. The greens, the slopes, the wind patterns. McIlroy has navigated all of it across nearly 2 decades of mastery. Fact number 5. The private jet. Yes, owning a private jet is a financial advantage, but so is access to elite physical recovery technology. So is employing a full-time coaching staff, a sports psychologist, and a nutritionist. So is being ranked inside the top 2 in the world and having the flexibility to be selective about your schedule. At the level McIlroy operates, nearly everything about his professional infrastructure carries some kind of advantage over less established players. That is the reality of elite sport. It is not unique to golf, and it is not unique to McIlroy. So where does that leave the actual debate? There are 2 very different conversations happening right now, and they need to be kept separate. The first conversation, the one dominating social media, is that Rory McIlroy did something wrong, broke an unwritten rule, or exploited some kind of loop. That conversation is not supported by facts. It is simply false. What he did is permitted, transparent, and has been done by players across the history. The second conversation is more legitimate and more interesting. Should major championships, particularly at venues like Augusta National, have clearer and more publicly stated guidelines around pre-tournament access? That is worth discussing. But here is the structural reality. Augusta National is a private club. It makes its own rules. The PGA Tour has absolutely no jurisdiction over how Augusta National manages access. None. Consider the U.S. Open, which is periodically held at Pebble Beach, a public course that anyone can book a tee time on for roughly $700. Is it unfair that a player could fly to Pebble Beach in February and play 20 practice rounds before a U.S. Open? Should that be restricted? The logic applied to McIlroy and Augusta would suggest yes, but no serious voice in golf making that argument, because the answer is obviously no. Preparation is preparation. How players choose to prepare within the rules is entirely their own business. The real competitive gap at the top of professional golf does not come from a few extra practice days. It comes from schedule flexibility, financial resources, world ranking privileges, and the compounding advantages that come with sustained excellence at the highest level. McIlroy has all of those because he has earned them over nearly 2 decades. Here is where this all lands. Rory McIlroy did nothing wrong. He identified an opportunity to prepare more thoroughly for the most important tournament of the year, and he executed on it with intelligence and precision. The question of whether major championships should offer more transparent guidelines around pre-tournament access, fair, reasonable, and worth monitoring as this conversation is. But directing outrage at McIlroy personally for doing something every other invited player could have done is misplaced. At the end of the day, McIlroy's biggest advantage this week has nothing to do with practice rounds or private. His biggest advantage is that he is Rory McIlroy, one of the most gifted golfers of his generation, playing some of the best golf of his career at a course he has studied and competed on for nearly 20 years. Now heading into rounds 3 and 4. The question is whether anyone in the field can close a 6-shot gap at Augusta National. It has been done before. Augusta is a course that can produce dramatic swings in a matter of holes. But if McIlroy closes this out and wins back-to-back green jackets, this conversation is not going away. It will grow. And when it does, make sure you're getting the full story, not just the outrage version. If this kind of coverage is what you're looking for, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts on it. What do you think? Smart preparation or an edge that needs regular? Let's hear it.